Shortly before the final curtain fell on his remarkable life, Robert Mitchum made a revelation that startled even those who believed they had heard everything Hollywood had to offer. In a candid moment, he spoke openly about fellow actor Charlton H., sharing an observation that many never expected to hear. The comment was not delivered with theatrical drama, nor was it meant to spark cheap controversy. It was spoken plainly, in the same grounded tone that defined Mitchum's life. For a man who had spent decades surrounded by illusion, image management, and carefully polished reputations, the truth mattered more than preserving appearances. And when he chose to speak, people listened. Robert Charles Durr Mitchum entered the world on August 6, 1917, in Bridgeport, Connecticut. His beginnings bore no resemblance to the glamour that later framed his career. There were no velvet curtains, no flashing lights, no whispers of stardom waiting in the wings. Instead, his early years were shaped by instability and struggle. His family moved often, finances were tight, and security was never guaranteed. Life demanded resilience long before he understood the meaning of ambition. His father earned a living as a daredevil stuntman, a profession that carried risk and uncertainty. His mother worked tirelessly, doing whatever she could to keep food on the table and stability within reach. From them, Mitchum absorbed lessons that no acting school could teach. He learned endurance. He learned self-reliance. He learned that survival often required grit rather than grace. Those early hardships carved something permanent into his character. The toughness audiences later admired was not crafted under studio lights. It was forged in the realities of a childhood that offered no shortcuts. When he eventually set his sights on Hollywood, he did not arrive with influential contacts or family connections. There was no silver platter waiting for him. Instead, he worked his way up the hard way. He drifted through a series of jobs, taking on whatever work he could find. He performed as a stuntman. He accepted small, often unnoticed background roles. He stood patiently in the shadows before anyone recognized his presence. Yet there was something about him that could not be ignored forever. His voice, deep, gravelly, and unhurried, cut through scenes with quiet authority. His demeanor was calm, controlled, and entirely free of theatrical excess. While many actors of the era leaned toward dramatic flourishes and expressive intensity, Mitchum did something different. He held back. He spoke less. He moved less. And in doing so, he commanded more attention. By the mid-1940s, films such as 30 Seconds Over Tokyo in 1944 and Undercurrent in 1946 demonstrated that he was not just another face hoping to break through. He possessed a magnetic restraint that drew viewers closer rather than pushing them away. His performances suggested depth without announcing it. He specialized in characters who lived in moral gray areas, men who were neither wholly good nor entirely corrupt. He became the embodiment of the anti-hero long before the term became fashionable. The 1940s and 1950s proved transformative. His unique edge propelled him into stardom and helped redefine what masculinity looked like on screen. He was not loud. He was not flamboyant. He did not chase approval. He simply existed within a role so completely that audiences believed every breath. A defining moment arrived in 1947 with Out of the Past, a film that would come to symbolize the noir genre. In the role of Jeff Bailey, a private detective entangled in a dangerous maze of deception and desire, Mitchum delivered a performance that critics and audiences alike could not forget. He balanced attachment with vulnerability, coolness with concealed pain. The tension he created felt organic, almost effortless. His stillness spoke louder than dialogue. His eyes revealed more than exposition ever could. He did not perform characters from the outside. He inhabited them. Whether portraying a broken romantic, a calculating antagonist, or a weary hero trying to avoid trouble, he gave each role texture and authenticity. His presence suggested history, as though the character existed long before the film began and would continue long after it ended. Yet what truly set him apart was his range. Though he became associated with brooding intensity, he was never confined to a single mold. In The Night of the Hunter in 1955, he played the menacing preacher Harry Powell. With little more than a steady stare and a softly delivered threat, he chilled audiences. He proved that menace does not require shouting. Silence, when handled correctly, can be far more terrifying. At the same time, he revealed surprising warmth in lighter projects, including musicals, such as the story of G.I. Joe in 1945. Audiences who expected only darkness found humor, gentleness, and even charm. That ability to move between danger and kindness without losing authenticity made him one of Hollywood's most compelling figures. Off-screen, he remained every bit as independent as the characters he portrayed. He resisted the rigid expectations of studio executives. He did not tailor his personality to fit a marketing strategy. Known for his sharp wit and dry humor, he had little patience for artificial behavior. He carried himself as a man guided by his own internal compass. His life outside film sets added to his mystique. There were encounters with the law. There were long fishing trips and quiet moments spent reading poetry. There was a reputation as a smooth-talking ladies' man that fueled both admiration and criticism. Yet despite the noise surrounding his name, he remained grounded. Unlike many contemporaries who became consumed by fame, Mitchum frequently withdrew from the spotlight, preferring privacy over constant visibility. People sensed something genuine in him. Every pause, every measured glance, every low-toned line felt rooted in truth. He participated in Hollywood's system without allowing it to own him. That refusal to surrender to illusion became one of his defining qualities. His influence reached far beyond his own filmography. Generations of actors drew inspiration from his minimalist approach. He demonstrated that power does not require volume. A single look, delivered with intention, can outweigh pages of dialogue. Directors valued his instincts. He understood scenes intuitively and rarely required endless retakes. His performances felt lived in rather than rehearsed. Away from cameras, loyalty to family remained central. In March 1940, he married Dorothy Spence. Their union endured nearly 6 decades, an extraordinary feat in an industry known for fleeting romances. Dorothy was often described as patient, calm, and resilient. She stood beside him long before fame found him. Together, they raised 3 children, navigating the pressures of celebrity life as a family. Their marriage weathered rumors, scandals, and the strain of constant scrutiny. Fame tested them repeatedly, yet they remained together until his death in 1997 at the age of 79. It would be dishonest to portray their relationship as a fairy tale. Mitchum's charm and the temptations of Hollywood led to numerous affairs that became widely whispered within industry circles. His wandering nature was hardly secret. Tabloids seized upon it eagerly. He followed his own moral code, sometimes frustrating those who cared about him most. Still, Dorothy did not walk away. She handled betrayal with remarkable composure. She did not seek revenge or public sympathy. Whether driven by love, understanding, or an unshakable bond, she remained. Their partnership was imperfect, complex, and undeniably human. In a town where relationships often disintegrated under pressure, theirs endured. As the years passed and his health declined, Mitchum remained candid. In one of his final interviews, he addressed Charlton H. directly. He suggested that Charlton was not always the flawless figure audiences perceived on screen or at public events. The comment struck a nerve because Charlton had long been celebrated as the embodiment of heroic virtue in epic films like Ben-Hur and the 10 Commandments. Mitchum's words were not delivered with malice. They reflected decades of first-hand observation. He had attended the same premieres, moved through the same social circles, and witnessed the private moments hidden from public view. He understood that legends are often simplified for mass consumption. He acknowledged Charlton's charm, but also pointed to stubbornness and a need for control. He referenced Charlton's later political involvement, particularly his leadership role in the National Rifle Association, suggesting that those traits had always existed. His intention was not to tear down, but to humanize. Behind every heroic image, he implied, stands a complex individual. He also spoke about the nature of Hollywood friendships. In an industry driven by contracts and competition, loyalty and rivalry intertwine. Smiles on red carpets do not guarantee sincerity. Agreements sealed with laughter can dissolve overnight. It is often difficult to distinguish genuine connection from performance. As he reflected on his long career, there was a quiet recognition that time reveals truths. Public interviews and magazine spreads rarely capture reality. The authentic story emerges when cameras stop rolling. Even towering figures, he suggested, remain human beneath the spotlight. In his later years, the consequences of a lifelong smoking habit caught up with him. Rarely seen without a cigarette, he had embraced the habit long before health warnings were common. It became part of his image, the weary, unbothered man who had seen everything. But decades of defiance carried a cost. He was eventually diagnosed with lung cancer. Friends observed fatigue and shortness of breath. The commanding physical presence that once defined him grew frilier. Yet his humor remained intact. He faced illness with the same blunt honesty that characterized his life. He did not seek sympathy. He accepted responsibility for his choices. On July 1, 1997, in Santa Barbara, California, Robert Mitchum passed away at 79. His death marked more than the loss of an actor. It signaled the fading of an era when stars carried mystery and danger without explanation. Tributes poured in from colleagues who admired his rare ability to convey emotion with restraint. Robert Mitchum was more than a movie star. He was a presence, steady, unfiltered, unforgettable. His legacy endures in every shadowed frame of classic cinema, reminding audiences that authenticity, even when flawed, leaves the deepest imprint. If you found this exploration of his life compelling, remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Your support helps ensure that stories like this continue to